Hello everyone, starting a new series of lectures where we will be learning about basics of programming, and after completing this series you will be capable of developing your own programming logic and implement that logic in your favorite programming language. So let's get started. Let's quickly take a look at what we'll be learning in this lecture. First of all, what is a program, data types, variables, identifiers, keywords, operators, and separators. After that, we'll be learning about functions, methods, and difference between POP and OOP programming structure. And at the end of this lecture, we'll be writing our first Java program. What is a program and programming? Program is a set of instructions written in some programming language which intends to perform some specific task, and the process of creating such programs is called programming. And the person who writes program is called a programmer. Here is a basic example of how a code looks. Don't worry about it right now if you don't understand the code. Moving on to data types and variables. Data types. Data type specifies the size and type of data you want to store in your variable. Some common data types available in most programming languages. So first we have string. It stores bunch of characters in it, making it a whole string. Integer. It stores numeric values. Boolean, it will store either true or false value. Float and double, both will store decimal values. Variables are the instance of data type which is capable of storing actual value depending upon which data type it belongs to. To understand this better, let's move to our example. So here we have variable named name which have value your name in it, and it belongs to string data type. We will learn about these variables in our example more. So let's move to our identifiers. Identifiers. Identifiers are unique identification of variables. Each variable should have some unique name with it. So some common rules for declaring identifiers are here. Names can contain letters, digits, underscores, and dollar signs. Names must begin with a letter. Name should start with a lowercase letter and it cannot contain white space. Names can also begin with a dollar and underscore sign. Names are case sensitive, obviously, where Java is a case sensitive language. Names cannot use reserved words or keywords with it. So, keywords are words reserved in programming languages which has some special sort of indication, some special meaning to it. So, you cannot use those names as an identifier there for your variables. So, let's keep that in the mind. Some common keywords are public, class, void, integer, super, etc. Uh, you will get familiar with them after you start practicing your code. So, moving on to operators now. Operators. Operators are used for performing operations on the data which is stored in your variable, and it has some special meaning with it. So, each operator is used for different purposes here. So these are the common operators here. Arithmetic operator is used for arithmetic operations. Assignment operators, it can be used to assign values to your variables, and it can also be combined with arithmetic operators to perform assignment and arithmetic operations both at the same time. And comparison operator. Comparison operators are used for comparing two statements, comparing two variables. Logical operators. Logical operators are used mostly in conditional statements to check if a certain condition is satisfied or not. Now, moving on to separators now. Separators. Separators are special symbol which is indication of some sort of separation and which helps in organizing your code. So common separators in Java, parentheses used in method invocation and method definition. Let's take a look at the example here. Public void my method followed by parenthesis separator. Moving on to braces, used to define block of code for methods, classes, local scope, also used to initialize arrays. Brackets. Brackets are used to declare size of arrays, referencing index of arrays. So let's take a look at the example here. Integer followed by the brackets and my array. We are using braces here to initialize array values. Semicolon used for indicating end of statement. If you take a look at here, we are using semicolon to show end of statement at the end of our array, comma, used to differentiate identifiers of same type in declaring variables, also used in changing statements in for loop. We will learn about this later on. Let's take a look at the example here. String, first name, comma, last name. And you could declare your variables like this also. Moving on to last our separator, dot, used for referencing methods, variables, and object of a class. Mostly you will be using this for accessing methods of class and using is in import statement. Moving on to our functions. Functions. Functions are a special part of program which stores some piece of code in it and it is executed whenever it is called. So let's take a look at the syntax here. So what the syntax says here is that a function should have some access specifier, some return type, identifier to identify it, and some optional parameters and a return. So in our example, our access specifiers is public, return type is string, and identifier it is identified by hello. We don't want any parameters, so our return type will be hello, which is a string which we specified here. We will practice about this move in our next example. So moving on to POP and OOP structure. POP and OOP programming structure. So let's first talk about POP programming structure, which is procedure-oriented programming. It follows top-down approach where data used is global and program is done and program control is done using functions. Example. So here we have a function named sum, which takes two parameters and returns sum of it. And the execution starts from main method here. So integer answer is a variable here and which stores sum of two variables, sum of two parameters we have passed here in this sum function. So it will return 14 here and answer ANS will have value returned 14 and when we print this it will print as sum is 14 returning 0. So this was the POP structure used in traditional C language and now moving on to OOP programming structure, it follows bottom-up approach and a program is divided into classes, provides reusability, uses access specifiers where the data gets private. You can control who can access the class, who cannot access the class. So let's move to our example here. So here we have declared our class, public class my class, which means public, it will be available to everyone. Moving on to a method named hello, public string hello, which returns string hello here. And the execution of code will start from here. First, you have to create object for the class. So we are creating object here, which is named obj here. And when you are printing it, so we are calling our method from class, my class here, which is hello method. So system.out.println obj.hello and which will output as hello here. Before moving to our code example, here I am at Oracle's website. Here you can download JDK package in your system and also in this new tab. Here you need some class path here to set up in your operating system so you can execute Java code easily. All steps given for the Linux, also for Windows operating systems. So just follow steps here. It's super easy. Okay, so here I am at my text editor. So what I want to do here is that I want to keep it really very simple, not to make it too complicated for you to understand. So just simply create a class, uh, define a method, and just print hello world. Okay, so I'll say class hello, and I want to define a method. So let's say public string height. We don't want any parameters now. Now, as we have specified here, a return type string, so we should return some string here. Return, oops, return, let's say hello world. Okay, this is good now. Uh, let's quickly define our main method. So public static void main string args. So what we are going to do here is that uh, access this high method from our hello class and print the output hello world here. This is the main method. All the execution of your code will begin from here. So let's create object of a class. So to create object, you need to type your class name, which is hello, and any name you want. So this should be some identifier. So I would name it as my object equals to new. So this is the interesting thing here. When you when you want to initialize your object, you specify this keyword new. You type this keyword new followed by the class name, which is the initialization step of your object. So now your object is initialized and now you can use it. So let's just print it. So for printing is for printing in Java, so system.out.println, you would print anything. So I don't want to print hard coded text here. I just want to print whatever my method outputs. So I would write my object dot method name, that's height, and put in the semicolon here, and that's it. Now just save our code and run it. To execute your Java program, uh, my file name is hello.java. So I will say Java C. This is Java extension for Java compiler. So it will call Java compiler and it will compile the code for you. So Java C hello.java, the file name, hit enter. Okay, everything looks good. Now, if there will be some error, it will return something like this. So I will remove this and save it. And now again compile our code. Java C. See, it says line 7, semicolon expected. Okay, so this was just for your knowledge. Okay, let's quickly run our code. So I will again compile it. And after you compile your code, you will see a new file generated hello.class, which was not there before. See, so what this hello.class thing does, it it is compiled in a bytecode now, so you can carry it anywhere and execute it directly. Okay, so to execute it finally, to check the output, we will do this as Java and as name. So Java hello and hit enter. You will see the output here, hello world. And this brings us to the end of this video now. So thank you very much. Keep watching, share this video, and peace.